This lesson describes the features and operation of the Vertical Situation Display, VSD. The VSD is a new display that shows the center map format at the top of the navigation display and the VSD at the bottom 35% of the display. The VSD appears within a four-sided white outline. The VSD presents a profile view of the airplane and its environment along the current track of the airplane with the perspective from the right side of the airplane. The VSD was developed as an awareness tool, like a map, rather than a control instrument. The terrain profile on the VSD is not intended to be used for precise terrain following tasks. Use of the VSD can help to avoid these kinds of approach and landing mishaps. By showing a clear graphical picture of the airplane's horizontal and vertical situation, the VSD provides for improved vertical flight path stability, reduced inappropriate go-arounds, and reduced hard landings or overruns. Also, improved vertical awareness during all phases of flight complements other safety features, such as the EGPWS, Enhanced Ground Proximity Warning System. The Flight Management Computer FMC, Common Display System CDS, and the EGPWS systems coordinate data to provide the VSD display. The FMC provides waypoint, runway, and approach data. The EGPWS provides terrain profile, and the CDS integrates and displays information. The VSD enhances vertical awareness by showing a vertical cross-section of the airplane's profile on the existing navigation display. To display VSD, first press the Center Map Mode switch on the EFIS control panel. A second push of the Center Map Mode switch will display the VSD. When you push the Center Map Mode switch for the second time, the VSD will always appear on the bottom of the navigation display. The VSD has three main sections: the altitude reference scale, the horizontal reference or distance scale, and the VSD background display. The altitude reference scale is based on the same data as the primary altimeter. The ratio of the altitude reference scale to horizontal distance is fixed so that a 3-degree approach angle appears the same on all EFIS CP range settings up to 80 nautical miles. The horizontal or distance scale of the VSD is the same as that presented on the horizontal map and is controlled by the range knob on the EFIS CP. These are some of the VSD background display features. The terrain profile line and vertical fill lines are colored in green, amber, and red, just like the terrain data on the lateral map part of the display. The terrain profile starts at the left edge of the display boundary and shows the true separation between the airplane and the terrain. Terrain is depicted on the VSD even if weather radar is being presented on the horizontal map. When the EPGWS determines that the airplane is in danger of terrain impact, the terrain raster on the lateral map shows in solid amber or red. Also, the profile and fill lines on the VSD shows in monochrome amber or red to heighten the effect of the alert. The airplane symbol shows as a right triangle with the top slope of the symbol representing a 3-degree glide path angle. The solid white line that extends from the nose is the flight path vector, FPV. The vertical angle of the FPV depends on both vertical and ground speed. The vertical speed vector is a dashed magenta line that rotates about the nose of the airplane. It shows when the vertical speed mode is selected on the mode control panel, MCP. These are additional features of the VSD. The MCP selected altitude line is a horizontal dashed magenta line that shows the selected altitude on the MCP. As the MCP selected altitude changes, the magenta selected altitude readout above the scale on the VSD changes. Also, the magenta MCP selected altitude bug and line move up or down on the altitude scale. The minimum descent altitude MDA line is a horizontal dashed green line that shows if barometric minimums has been selected on the EFIS control panel. If the MCP and MDA altitudes are the same, the magenta and green lines interlace. The green range to target speed dot, RTSD, shows on the flight path vector to indicate where the airplane will achieve the target speed from the FMC or MCP during deceleration. The FMC has priority. The dot blanks if airplane speed is within 5 knots of target speed. A green unfilled dot at the end of the flight path vector shows that the target speed will not be achieved within the VSD display area. For selected approaches without a designated approach angle, a dashed cyan 3-degree reference vector will be displayed. For approaches that include a designated FMC approach angle, a solid magenta reference vector will be displayed. The 3-degree reference vector and the FMC approach angle have decision gates at 500 feet and 1,000 feet above field elevation to define where the airplane should be path and speed stable on approach. Waypoint symbols can include identification and altitude constraints. The first waypoint in the swath is magenta, and the following, if any, will be white. The runway symbol shows the location, altitude, and length of the selected runway and comes from the FMC. The runway symbol is white and appears when the approach swath is active and the runway is in the swath. The amber VSD flag shows when essential data to draw a picture of the vertical situation is not available. The amber VSD terrain flag shows for these conditions. When the terrain inhibit switch on the ground proximity control panel is in the inhibited position, an amber VSD terrain inhibit flag shows on the lower right of the VSD. The flag remains until the terrain inhibit switch on the ground proximity control panel is reset to normal. The amber runway data failure flag shows for these conditions. If the FMC active route is being modified, the VSD shows a white modification route flag. When this occurs, only the first waypoint shows until the modification is either erased or executed. If a map range, terrain range, or combined map terrain range disagreement occurs, the range scale blanks for up to 6 seconds. If the disagreement is not reconciled in that period, the scale reappears and the message Map Range Disagree, Terrain Range Disagree, or Map Terrain Range Disagree shows.